Rambo First Blood Part 2 is less a sequel and more a radical reboot, one dictated by the commercial and political demands of the mid-1980s. The character of John Rambo, introduced in 1982 as a traumatized victim of the Vietnam War and institutional neglect, was deliberately stripped of his psychological baggage and re-engineered into a geopolitical superhero. This transformation was primarily the vision of star and co-writer Sylvester Stallone. Stallone understood that the audience of 1985 craved spectacle, patriotism, and a definitive resolution to the lingering national wound of the Vietnam War, a resolution denied by history and politics. From PTSD to precision, the core contradiction of First Blood, a skilled killer who struggles to survive in civilian life, is resolved in the sequel by removing the civilian life entirely. Rambo is presented as a being designed solely for combat. His vulnerability is replaced by invincibility, his despair by righteous fury. The look of the warrior. The film perfected the iconography that defines Rambo, the exaggerated musculature, the bandana, the oil-slicked physique, and the heavy bandoliers. This aesthetic of maximum capability was a deliberate marketing strategy that cemented Rambo's status as a comic book-level action figure, capable of absorbing endless punishment and delivering overwhelming firepower. 1.2. The political canvas, the POW-MIA thesis. The film's enormous success is inextricable from its potent, controversial political narrative, which elevated the POW-MIA issue to the level of national myth. The unfinished war. Rambo 2 offered a cinematic resolution to the Vietnam War that satisfied a segment of the American populace. The war was not lost on the battlefield, but through political betrayal. The enduring belief that American soldiers were left behind provided the perfect moral justification for Rambo's unilateral intervention. The enemy within. The film systematically redirects blame. The external enemies, Soviet and Vietnamese communists, are cartoonishly evil, but the true antagonists are the U.S. bureaucrats led by Marshal Murdoch. Murdoch's explicit decision to sabotage the rescue is designed to confirm the conspiracy theory that the government intended to abandon the POWs. This narrative move allows the film to position Rambo as an authentic patriot fighting against the corrupt state establishment. 2.0. The narrative engine, structural design and archetypes. 2.1. The mentor and the traitor. The sequel utilizes classic mythological archetypes to structure Rambo's journey. Colonel Sam Troutman, the wise mentor. Richard Crenna's return as Troutman is essential. Troutman is the only character who understands Rambo and provides the necessary exposition for the audience. He acts as the figure who sanctions Rambo's mission and provides him with the initial path out of confinement. Troutman is Rambo's connection to the legitimate military structure, even if that structure is later compromised. Marshal Murdoch, the bureaucratic antagonist. Murdoch is the embodiment of the political enemy. He is physically weak, strategically cowardly, and morally bankrupt. His job is to provide the betrayal that forces Rambo to transition from an obedient asset to an independent, vengeful agent. Murdoch represents the Washington political machine that Rambo must violently repudiate. 2.2. The thematic function of the Ko-Bao subplot. The tragic romance between Rambo and the Vietnamese resistance fighter Ko Phuong Bao, Julia Nixon, is the most critical dramatic subplot in the film, providing the necessary emotional catalyst for the film's shift to pure revenge. The glimmer of peace. Ko Bao is designed to represent Rambo's last chance at a normal life. Their shared history in the war and her immediate respect for his honor provide Rambo with a momentary connection to the outside world. Their relationship humanizes Rambo just enough so that his subsequent rage is justified not by an abstract political mission, but by a tangible personal loss. The necessary sacrifice. Ko Bao's death is a dramatic imperative. By having her murdered just as they were about to escape, the film ensures that Rambo loses his last emotional anchor. This sacrifice is the final, ultimate proof that Rambo can never return to peace. He's destined to be a warrior. Her death is the moment the mythic warrior fully emerges, fueled by grief and rage. 3.0. Aesthetic and armament, the engineering of the action hero. 3.1. The compound bow, weapon as icon. The choice of the compound bow with explosive-tipped arrows for Rambo is one of the film's most brilliant cinematic moves. Primal power. The bow is an ancient, primitive weapon requiring intense skill and focus. This choice reinforces Rambo's status as a warrior who relies on instinct and training over technology. Futuristic firepower. By adding the explosive warhead, the film marries the primitive weapon to modern, destructive capability. The sight of an arrow hitting a target and detonating in a massive fireball instantly created an iconic, spectacular visual that was unique to Rambo and elevated him beyond traditional machine gun-wielding heroes. The aesthetics of the military-industrial hero. The film's aesthetic defined the military look of the 1980s action genre. The bandana and the oil. The red headband became a symbol of Rambo's resolve. The oiled, muscular physique was not just an element of Stallone's personal brand, but a visual statement. Rambo is honed to perfection, a living weapon sculpted by war. The soundscape of war. The technical team, which earned an Academic Award nomination for Best Sound Effects Editing, created an immersive, powerful soundscape of the jungle. The heavy rhythmic thud of the M60, the sharp twang of the bow, and the roar of the explosions. The sound design was integral to selling the spectacle of Rambo's one-man war. Following the death of Kobau, Major John Rambo undergoes his final psychological change. He ceases to be a soldier on a mission and becomes an unrestrained force of vengeance. The military doctrine of the U.S. Army is replaced by the primal code of the mythical warrior. Reversal of the hunter-hunted dynamic. The entire middle act of the film is devoted to Rambo being captured, tortured, and betrayed. The final act is the dramatic reversal, where Rambo methodically and violently reclaims control. The dense jungles of Vietnam, filmed in Mexico, transform from a suffocating trap into Rambo's playground, where his superior knowledge of guerrilla warfare turns the tables on the Soviet and Vietnamese forces. The high body count as an ideological proof. The sheer number of enemies Rambo eliminates, estimated at well over 60, is not accidental. The high body count functions as a necessary component of the film's ideological statement. One morally pure American can overcome any number of communist enemies, regardless of resources or organizational size. The body count is the measure of the enemy's corruption and the hero's righteousness. The destruction of the enemy base. The climax involves Rambo destroying the enemy camp, freeing the POWs, and using a captured Soviet helicopter to obliterate the remaining forces. This sequence is pure wish fulfillment for the audience, providing the visual spectacle of an American hero successfully concluding a mission that the U.S. government had deemed impossible. 5.2. The final confrontation, the helicopter duel. The decisive conflict between Rambo and Lieutenant Colonel Podofsky in their respective helicopters is the peak of the film's action spectacle. Technology versus ingenuity. Podofsky, flying a state-of-the-art Soviet gunship, represents superior technology and centralized power. Rambo, flying an older, captured Soviet helicopter, relies on daring, skill, and ingenuity. The final move, where Rambo fires a massive rocket launcher into Podofsky's cockpit, is a spectacular display of cinematic hyperbole, symbolically confirming the superiority of the American individual over Soviet systems. Rambo's monologue of vengeance. Upon landing the helicopter, Rambo confronts the surviving members of the Vietnamese command, freeing the rescued POWs, and his unforgettable statement of defiance. "I'm coming to get you," in reference to the remaining POWs. This moment seals his character as an eternal crusader, forever dedicated to the unfinished business of the war. The political climax and the lasting message. 6.1. The confrontation with Murdoch, a smashed system. The true climax of the film is not the helicopter fight, but the tense confrontation between Rambo and Marshal Murdoch back at the US base. Moral authority versus legal authority. Rambo, armed with his massive knife, forces Murdoch to confront the consequences of his betrayal. Rambo's decision not to kill Murdoch is critical. He kills the enemies of the state, but reserves his moral judgment for the state itself. Instead of physical violence, Rambo delivers a symbolic blow. The destruction of communication. Rambo smashes the expensive computer equipment and communication systems, shattering the tools of the bureaucracy that enabled the betrayal. This act is the ultimate repudiation of the Washington establishment, signaling Rambo's rejection of their corrupt governance. The final demand. Rambo's emotional plea to Colonel Troutman, "I want what every other guy who came over here wants, for our country to love us as much as we love it," was arguably the most significant line of dialogue in 1980s cinema. It successfully recontextualized the entire Vietnam War through the lens of betrayal and a simple, reciprocal demand for national recognition and love. The post-war warrior's solitude. The film ends with Rambo walking away, an isolated but morally victorious figure. The refusal to reintegrate. Rambo rejects the promise of a peaceful life, confirming his eternal status as a warrior. He's unable to rejoin a society he knows to be corrupt and unable to heal his wounds. His existence is defined by the ongoing war for justice. Commercial dominance and the engineering of a phenomenon. 7.1. The Juggernaut's financial power. Rambo: First Blood Part 2 was the financial apex of the franchise, cementing Sylvester Stallone's position as the world's most bankable action star. Its $300 million worldwide gross confirmed that its potent mix of action and political myth was exactly what the global audience, particularly the American audience, desired. Merchandising and pop culture. Rambo became a commercial brand, with his look and armament becoming iconic, easily parodied, and endlessly imitated. 7.2. The paradox of critical, technical acknowledgement. The film's reception remains a fascinating paradox. Critical rejection, Razzie winner, the film was awarded the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Picture due to its simplistic political message and abandonment of character depth. Technical acknowledgement, Oscar nominee. Conversely, the film earned an Academic Award nomination for Best Sound Effects Editing, a testament to the high technical quality and immersive sound design used to render the complex jungle warfare and explosive action sequences. Rambo: First Blood Part 2 is a cultural monument, a high-stakes, politically charged action spectacle that successfully tapped into a national desire for military and moral redemption. It defined the look, the sound, and the ideology of the 1980s action hero, transforming a tragic figure into an enduring symbol of American might.